Chuffs look like a crow, but is distinguished by its striking red feet and beak, which are attributed to the murder of Thomas of Becket, the Archbishop of Canterbury, over 850 years ago. They were once widespread across Britain but declined massively and are only found on the west coast. The RSPB estimates the breeding pairs at 250 to 350 in the UK. We set off to search the coastal cliffs of West Wales. It is a non-migratory bird. It's slightly larger than a jackdaw, but smaller than the crow. The males and females are identical, but the male is slightly the larger of the two. They pair for life, and they tend to stay close to their home territory for most of their lives. Their diet consists of insects and larvae. A good source has been animal dung. Dung is available all year round, and in the UK there are over 60 species of insects living either within the dung or tunnelling below it. But there is a problem. One of the main causes of decline of insects has been identified by the overuse of dewormers, such as Ivermectin, in cattle, pigs, sheep, goats and horses. The problem is these chemicals come out in the dung, and while the adult insect is still attracted to the dung, it can be fatal to some beetle larvae, as well as causing side effects as egg failure in others. Cattle and horse dung is a particularly good source of insects for the Chuffs. Chuffs are part of the Covid or crow family, and they're some of the smartest animals on the planet. Chuffs do not normally breed until they're 2 or 3 years of age and can continue breeding for almost 20 years. The female will lay between 2 to 6 eggs, normally 5 eggs. The eggs hatch after 19 days, and both parents feed the young until they fledge at about 6 weeks.
Yep, 2 of them.
They are an acrobatic fly, distinguished by their finger feathers at their wing tips. Its name is possibly derived from its call, a loud Chough, Chough, which is often the best way to find Chuffs when out on the cliffs. Now, why is the Chuff connected to the murder of Thomas of Becket in 1170? Well, the legend has it that a passing crow saw the murder of Thomas of Becket and stopped and dipped its beak and feet in Becket's blood as he was dying, giving it its red legs and beak and transforming the crow into a Chuff. Interestingly, Becket's coat of arms features 3 Chuffs, a symbol that appears in Canterbury Cathedral and other churches in the area. In some areas of Kent, the Chuff is called a Becket. But what is the connection between the Chuffs, Canterbury Cathedral and South Wales? We all know of the murder of Thomas of Becket, but what actually happened? In 1162, Henry II of England made his Chancellor and close friend Thomas of Becket Archbishop of Canterbury. As Chancellor, Becket had proved devoted to Henry's interests, and the king thought he was just the man to extend his royal authority over the church. It is difficult for us today to grasp the extraordinary status that the church had at that time. In addition to its spiritual authority and near monopoly over literacy and education, it got richer with each passing year as the faithful gave it money and property. The church was controlled from Rome, and ordained churchmen could only be tried by church courts, no matter what crime they committed. Henry wanted to bring them under his authority. Once in office, Becket went over to the church side, heart and soul, much to Henry's dismay. When Henry proposed legal reforms, Becket refused to agree and fled to France. The Pope brokered a compromise, and 5 years later, Becket returned to England. But the row soon broke out again when Becket excommunicated 3 churchmen, including the Archbishop of York, for crowning Henry's eldest son as joint king, a task that should have fallen to Becket himself. When Henry heard of Becket's action, he exploded with rage. He berated his household for being a pack of miserable curs and traitors who stood idly by while a low-born priest treated their king with contempt. Hearing this, 4 of his knights left the court in secret. They tried to arrest Becket on the king's behalf, but he refused to come quietly, so they resolved to make the arrest by force. The confrontation became violent, and the knights cut him down with their swords. Shocked by what they'd done, they fled into the night. The murder shook everyone, especially Henry himself. The situation could hardly be more embarrassing for Henry. The Pope excommunicated the knights. The papal punishment of the king was effectively done by negotiation on the exact terms of penance over the next 18 months. Within a year, Henry travelled to Ireland. On his way, he stopped at St. David's Cathedral in South Wales on pilgrimage. It was part of this process of penance. At that time, 2 pilgrimages to St. David's was recognised as the equivalent of one to Rome. So when Henry again visited St. David's on his way back from Ireland the following year, he was actually accumulating the equivalent pennant points as travelling to Rome. Becket's death resulted in his martyrdom for standing up for the rights of the church, and people began to pray for him. Pilgrims started to visit his tomb. People started to report miracles, and in 1173 the Pope declared Becket a saint. Hence the connection between the Chuffs' red legs and beak, Canterbury Cathedral and St. David's Cathedral in South Wales. To end on a final positive note, Chuffs are being reintroduced to Kent after an absence of almost 200 years. Chuffs have retained a special deep cultural link throughout Kent's history, and they have been spotted on many a pub sign, as well as being on Canterbury's coat of arms. This is as a result of successful restoration of the East Kent chalk grasslands habitat, thanks to the work of the Kent farmers using regenerative farming practices supported by Kent Wildlife Trust and others. 19 Chuffs have been reintroduced to Dover Castle in the second year of a 5-year introductory plan. So when you go to the White Cliffs of Dover, look out for the Chuffs.